Hi and welcome back to the Battleboards bunker. I'm Richard Hale, and today we're going to have a look at how the bolt action table is going to be finished and continue. We're going to be looking in more detail at the paint finishes and how I go around actually finishing the table. Okay, this is what the board looks like before we start. You can see the two boards. We have the buildings in place that all need to be painted, and the rockwork. So we're going to concentrate on the rockwork and the buildings. Okay, this is the colour that I've chosen for the rockwork. It's sort of like a sort of warm brown, if you like, because it's we're going to do desert rockwork for this one. I normally do grey rockwork, but as this is Italy, it's going to be much browner. I've also mixed into this a fair amount of stone dust. This is Portland stone dust. As we're close to Portland, it's easy for me to get hold of. But that will give the paint some texture. You can also add some PVA into that if you're worried about it sticking. But to be honest, once the paint is dried, the stone dust will be impregnated in it pretty well. So there's no need really to add the glue unless you're really worried. So I'm just going to go ahead and start applying that over the general rockwork. I'm going to be dabbing it on because we want that texture to come through. And you'll see that basically I'm just going to... Now the colour of this rock at the moment is not the colour it's going to end up. That's important to stress at this point, and not to get too worried about adding colours. We need to build up colours in layers, and we need to end up with the colour that we want, but that doesn't necessarily mean to say that the colours that you're actually putting on at the start of the painting exercise is what it's going to actually look like at the end. It will look completely different once we've washed it over with different colours and different browns. Okay, you can see that I'm just going to work my way along. I've gone in a bit closer so you can see what's actually happening. And all we're really looking for at this stage is just to get all the rockwork to look the same colour. We don't want every single piece of rock to look the same colour at the end of the project, but we can adjust that in the next stages, or even the final stages. When we start airbrushing it, we can actually adjust the colours of different rock at different points throughout the board. No rock will be the same colour throughout the whole board, and again, you need to start looking at how rockwork is in real life and the way it changes colour. Okay, you can see that I've worked my way round, giving this undercoat. I'm now going to spin the board round, making sure that I've got all the bits that I want. So constantly spinning the board round. I'm going to remove the buildings as well, so I can get into all the places. Now you can see that I'm not being careful about this painting. This is just getting the first few coats on. The whole board is going to have to be merged in together, so I'm not being careful at this stage. There'll be plenty of time for that later on in the other stages. So the main thing you want to do is make sure obviously it is all covered in paint. You don't want any gaps or anything, which is tricky with rockwork. If you've got an airbrush, that's where that comes into its own. But I got some handy tips on what you can do if you haven't got an airbrush and you're not skilled with an airbrush. There are other things that can help you out on that score, so I'll take you through those as we go through. With the base coat brown on and dry, we now need to start adding the washes, which is the messy bit. So you're going to need plenty of tissue, and I use these water sprayers to start adding the coats on, which are great for just giving you that randomness that you need within the rockwork. You can do this by hand, but it's much easier to do this and quicker to do this using the sprayers. So you get, and again, you can see that I'm not worrying about where the spray is going. It's going everywhere, but that's really the sort of idea, that we want these washes to be blended into each other and all over the board. So that was a black. This is like a sort of browny orange, which is quite a good colour, just going over the top of everything. The washes will work better wet on wet, so you know, the more coverage you get, the better it will be. Have the green. Okay, so once you get to that stage, it's a good idea then to mop up all the excess water and paint. The paint in the sprayers is a mixture of it's acrylic. I use acrylic paint, which is quite a specialist acrylic paint used for set construction, building, for things like film sets. But you can use emulsions and all sorts of water-based paint. You need to thin it down. It's also important that the sprayers aren't great. They will sort of block up quite quickly. So you need to strain, water the paint down quite a lot, and then strain the paint afterwards using a paint strainer or an old pair of tights or something like that, just to get as much of the lumps and things out of it as possible. And you'll find that the sprayer will continue to work longer that way. Okay, with the first wash on, I'm going to force dry this with a hot air gun. Now, this is one of the main advantages of me using my polyurethane boards and not using any polystyrene. If you've got any polystyrene in your board, you cannot do this because it will just penetrate whatever surface you've got on top and melt your sculpture or your sculpted rockwork. But because my rockwork's made from resin cast from moulds, and the substructure is either timber or flexible sort of plastic mesh in the same sort of, if you watch the movie on Mordor, you'll see that I've used plastic mesh in some of the constructions of that. But yeah, you would not be able to do this with your boards. You have to be patient and let the wash dry. So just zoom in a bit there so you can see closer what's going on, how the hot air gun is literally just sort of helping that drying process start. I'll just work my way around the board, not concentrating in one area too much, because even my resin and plastics underneath will get damaged if I get it too hot. I think polystyrene is not a bad thing if you want to make your own boards. I think it's perfectly okay. I think when you're looking at a commercial board, I think, you know, my clients are expecting something that's going to be robust and last a lifetime, and I don't think polystyrene really gives me that material and that longevity of what I would expect, you know, or what they would expect the board, you know, how long the board would last. So I think that's why I tend to use more expensive materials, which is why, you know, the boards are expensive, because they are made to last. These boards will last far longer than I will, if treated right. Okay, so I've spent a bit of time going round the board, drying all the sort of rock work, which is the bit that I want to concentrate on first. Some of the buildings are still wet, but I think the rock work is now dry enough to go on to the next stage. Thanks for watching. I'm trying to keep these movies quite short so you can skip to the bits that you're unsure about or want to watch again. That's the undercoating section done, so the next part will be more specialist, where we'll be looking into some spray techniques and some more specialist finishes. Thank you very much again for watching, and we'll see you in the next part.